I would like to call upon Mr. Thomas Konditi. Let's give him a hand.
Okay, testing. Are we good? All right, so since nobody knows anything about me, I have succeeded. So my name is Thomas Konditi, and I know people, there's so many doctors in here that I almost got sick just to see if I could talk to somebody. And then somebody told me, no, they're academic, so I took my booster shot instead. Just for reference, we're all Zambians in here. Originally, I'm from Kenya. I'm originally from Kenya. I'm actually still from Kenya. But I have served in Zambia. As the Chief Financial Officer for General Electric for Africa, I was in charge of working on the financing of almost all the major deals that were in the oil and gas business, rail, transportation, power, solar, healthcare, and then as the CEO for GE for Southern Africa, Zambia was part of my remit, so I would go and visit with the old government several times. And so I feel your pain and your elation at any changes that allow development and growth in Zambia. I'm no longer a GE worker employee. And I want to give you a little bit of my journey that tells you how real estate factors into the whole discussion. So, real estate, let's just start back. Since everybody keeps talking about my special friendship with Frida, and my wife is upstairs, and now I need to explain why is everybody saying, oh, I didn't know, Thomas had a special relationship with. It is special because I grew up with two sisters, and I now have three. And Frida is as close to my sister and my sisters as the ones that I grew up with. And then Senna, I grew up with one brother, I now have two. And we've really, for the last 30 years, and again, I was 1 year old when I met them, so for the last 30 years, I met these two 20-something-year-olds, and then you can see how we've aged differently. Anyway, so the point is, 30 years ago, I was watching TV late at night, and you used to have these commercials. And the guy who would come on is Carlton Sheets. Do we remember Carlton Sheets? And Carlton Sheets was selling a program on how to get into real estate and do it with no or low money down. How many people have heard low or no money down in real estate? Okay. So I saw this Carlton Sheets fellow. Being the smart Kenyan that I am, I was like, this guy's a crook. I know why would he tell the rest of us how to get rich in real estate for free or for just a few $100s? So I ignored Carlton Sheets, and instead I went with the guy who said, put one advertisement in every newspaper in the country, and you'll get $1 from every city. And I thought, oh, this is easy money, and I got $1, exactly. 10 years later, which was 20 years ago, I was on a business trip and I returned home, and my wife presented proudly this kit from Carlton Sheets. I said, what is this kit? And she said, no, this is how we're going to get into real estate for low or no money down. Now, my wife is a very smart person and more degrees than I have, and so I respected her, but I said, now look, let me tell you how Carlton Sheets makes his money in real estate. He goes on TV, he tells you to buy his kit, you send him the money, and that's how he gets rich. I don't think it's in real estate. So I said, when was this thing, when did we buy this? Oh, 15 days ago. Okay, then the 21-day money-back guarantee is still in effect. Send this thing back. And she took the thing and packaged it and sent it back. No real estate. Then 10 years ago, this was roughly around the 2008 housing stuff. I had a house in Chicago, just outside of Chicago, and to get out of that house to move to my next place, I would have to write a check for $50,000. So the realtor said, look, maybe if you rent it for a few years, let the market come back. I said, I hate real estate, and I hate renting, and I don't like tenants, and I don't want to collect, I don't want to, calls about toilet, but she convinced me, and I hated it. And I hated the tenants, and I hated the calls from the neighbors about the tenants, and I hated the calls from the HOA about the stuff at the place. And I said, never, 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 never get into real estate. So this was 10 years ago. And then 5 years ago, after 25 years at General Electric, I was like, 25 years in corporate America is great. I've worked a lot in Africa, I've worked in my own country, I've worked around the world. But this corporate thing needs to end because I need to spend time with my kids. The next 10 years for them is far more important than the next 10 years for GE. And so I said, but what I can do, because again, I'm still only like 5 years old, so how am I going, I still have a long future ahead of me, I need to do something. And real estate came along the path. And now, so I started 3 years ago in the world of real estate. After the first year, I had 4 apartments, and I had put in $40,000. After second year, I had 90 apartments worth $5 million. And last month was the third year. I now have 220 apartments worth $15 million. And along the way, the $900,000 I had put in, I've received $720,000 of that back. I still own the 200 apartments. So, what is this voodoo magic? Or as our witchcrafters / doctors would tell us, there must be something behind it. So I'm here to tell you, I was an idiot for telling my wife to send Carlton Sheets back to his factory, because I could have been much, much richer than all of you guys here, Elon Musk, all those people, because 1/3 of successful rich people, you see in their bio, after he made his fortune in real estate, so-and-so became a X. So there's a reality to that. So let's talk about real estate and what it means. Let's see. Let's see if it does it. There we go. Look, real estate is a huge, huge field. And just by show of hands, let me just get everyone's hand who has rented an apartment or a house. Hands up. If not, you are a squatter. So put the hands up. Okay. And we have police officers for you. Who has owned their own home? Good. So you know the pain involved in getting a loan, etc. Who has owned or owns investment property in the U.S.? Okay, good. I see a handful. All right. Look, the real estate market is a lot. It's not just owning a home or owning an apartment or two or even commercial. You have commercial real estate, which is a massive sector, office space, etc. You have industrial real estate. How does Amazon deliver all its stuff from its warehouses? That's industrial real estate, right? And it goes up all the time, and you see it as those 18-wheelers drive by in and out of that real estate. You have shopping real estate, the shopping malls, not necessarily the place I would get into today, but still, that's massive real estate. Land by itself is real estate. Rental homes, what we call SFRs, or single-family rentals, just a house with a single family in it, which a lot of people usually have. And then you have multifamily real estate, which is anything that's 5 units or greater generally is treated as commercial multifamily real estate. And then you can be a developer. You can be a real estate agent. You can be in property management, and the list goes on and on and on. If you look at the picture on the side, look at real estate as a superhighway with many, many lanes, generally ending up at a place of wealth or success. Now, just like any superhighway, and those of you who have driven in Atlanta know, you go in the fast lane, you take risk, you get there faster, but the accidents are more spectacular, right? If you stay in the slow lane, you'll eventually get there, and you probably won't get kicked off the road, right? Especially if you're paying attention. Real estate is nothing different. You can be in multiple different lanes. But the fool is the one that slips around from lane to lane in the middle of traffic at peak time, right? That's the guy that ends up in the fast lane off the road. So it's important to pick a lane and then get good at it. And then you can drive just like everybody else, safely, and you can make it to the destination. So let me, right after lunch, give you some math assignments. The education panel was here. They talked ideas. I just want them to know I'm now here to teach math in this class. It's basic math. Single family versus multifamily is basically saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, or 10, or 100, or 300 apartments in one transaction. We look at it as a per unit basis, which is really per apartment. And an example would be if you buy one of these apartments, so if you buy 10 for $1 million, each apartment is $100,000, right? Children, if I divide 1 million by 10, 100,000, okay. The gold star is coming. You get a loan for 80%, and you end up with, you have to put your $20,000 in. Forget the fees and all of that. So are we good so far? Okay. Now you take that rental unit, and you rent it for, call it $1,100. Okay? Different markets are different. Some places, New York, they would be $2,000, right? Charlotte, North Carolina, it could be $800. Let's just say it's $1,100. Your expenses for a unit like that are usually around 45%, so that's $500, which leaves you with $600. And then you pay your loan of roughly $400 per unit, and you're left with cash flow of $200 a month. Okay, that's after all expenses, after all your loan, you're left with a couple $100 per unit. And if you multiply that by the number of units you have, it becomes a sizable amount. But the return is not bad, as you can see. 12% return on the cash that you put in. Now, you say, well, okay, that sounds like a decent, thing. You have to put some effort in to make sure the property is managed well. You usually hire a third-party manager. You do have to deal with some capital expenses every so often, but you allow for that. But in any case, the math is fairly solid. Of all the properties we have, this is kind of how it adds up. The other thing you can do with apartments is you can drive the value up. Right? So everybody's familiar with buy a property, rent a property, there's the math. But what if you buy a property for some discount because it's not in good shape, you do some renovation on it, you don't flip it, you're not selling, you're not flipping. Those of us who have been in the flip world, that's a job, that's not an investment. You renovate it, you rent it, now you refinance that property to get your cash out, and then you reinvest and repeat the same process. Again, if I had gone with Carlton Sheets 20 years ago, I would have done that process multiple times and been much further down the road. But what you're doing is you are forcing appreciation in real estate. You're not waiting for all your neighbors' prices to go up, or for the market to change, or for Zillow to say X, Y, or Z. You are forcing it because in commercial real estate, important point, commercial real estate, it depends on the revenues and costs of that property. There's something about the market, but generally depends on the property itself. So here's a property we bought for, I forget the number, but this is the condition we bought it in. Not very nice. This is the before picture. Renovation, this is the after. Okay? We do this in 7 to 14 days every week of the year for all of our properties. We have somebody goes in, click, 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 clean, clean. There you go. It becomes a process. The math on this says, oh, I'm clicking. There we go. So on this one, instead of paying $100,000, I paid $60,000. I did renovation of $30,000, so that's now a $90,000 value. I took a loan for 80% of that $90,000, which is now $72,000. So I put cash in of $18,000, a little bit less, but still some cash in. I rent it for the same rate, I get the same expenses, and I get what is called net operating income, which is before the loan, of $600. The way that the industry values this property is based on the net operating income, and then a variable called the cap rate, which I won't get into, but essentially it's kind of like the interest rate of that area. But this property would be valued at $120,000. So I've just forced, in 14 days, the value to go from 90,000 to 120,000. No magic, but some hard work. So what do I do with that 30,000 of value that people are saying I have? My new value is 120,000. My new loan at 75% is 90,000, right? So I take a loan out to refinance, for those of you who have refinanced. If I take off the old loan, I pay back 72,000, and I get cash of 18,000. How much did I put in the beginning? 18,000. What have I gotten back? So what's my cash in? 0. And now I own a fully renovated apartment that's making, remember, $200 a month of free cash flow. So you rinse and repeat. For those people who use shampoo, and for those who don't, please do. You refinance and repeat. Just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. And you ask yourself, well, what does this mean with growth, and how does our mindset change? Well, number one, let's rethink retirement, right? Your old mindset is, I have a W-2 job, it may have a pension, the school district, the state, whoever is giving me some 5,000, 3,000, whatever the number is, plus your Social Security. I'm sure it'll still be there when you need it. And that's my retirement, right? Oh, and then those of you who are counting on your kids, I have 4 kids myself. That's not your retirement plan. They're all going after their passions, and their passions don't make them money. So that's not your retirement. But with the growth mindset of real estate, take $200 per month times 100 apartments you've built up over some time, and that is $20,000 in cash every month. I know some of you are so rich that this is a small number for you. But I didn't see Nigerians here. For the rest of us, this is a good number. This is a good number, okay? You control the asset, it's yours. It's not the stock market that goes up and down. It's not an employer who decides to cut the pension plan. These are your assets. When the inflation comes, you move. My tenants love me because inflation is 6.8% and I only raise the rent 5%. Right? But I raise the rent 5%, I don't lose the 5% to inflation. Right? So this is the retirement idea. How about your college fund for your kids? Colleges are expensive. Educators know, the government knows, the public knows, people who want their loans off know. Well, what if the old mindset was, you do some savings, you get a 529 for your kid, you get some financial aid, take some loans, go and sell things on the corner. I don't know what they're selling, but you make tuition one way or the other. Well, what if you bought a house for $200,000? You rent it, in 15 years it's worth twice as much. But during a 15-year loan, the renters have paid the entire loan off. You now have a $400,000 asset that you can use to pay for tuition. Your renters pay the tuition. So you say, well, okay, Thomas, is this something to keep us all tied back to? No, these are real assets. You ask yourself, how can I afford to do stuff in Zambia? Well, switch retirement over to, I want to send $10,000 a month for a project, for an investment, for my cows, the veterinarian, whoever else you need on the project, my lawyer, for my brother. $10,000 a month from real estate going perpetually into projects that you want, there's an answer. For your college fund idea, well, what if you turn that into, well, look, I want to put not a million, but $400,000 or $300,000 for my cousin who needs to go to university. My cousin is 3 years old, 4 years old. If I buy a property and I know that I have to take care of that university down the road, I have a property that I can And you can do this with really anything, as any sort of investment. I really give it to you to think about with steady cash flow, with a hard asset that moves with inflation, and something that you control. Are you still in the old mindset of, let me just get my pension and my Social Security, and that's how I'm going to make it? Or let me just save a few dollars every month, and that's how I'm going to send it back home, or how I'm going to do a project in the future? Or do you take something that has been proven across this country at least? By the way, that's tax-free. I forgot to mention, $20,000 a month. The CPAs in here, please don't do a lot of checking, but a lot of that is capital return, and then the rest is covered by depreciation that the US tax law allows you to write off. It's essentially a tax-free income. So I don't encourage you to throw away the Carlton Sheets things, but just think that this is not from a guy who's trying to sell you anything. I don't want any investment. I don't want any phone calls. I don't want anything. I'm just letting you know that from switching my mindset to something that I think actually works, that I can manage and then control, it is real. And I think my bankers, who call me almost every week and say, hey, do you need a couple $100,000 for anything? This is not the same as 3 years ago when I was calling the banker and he's saying, no, who are you? So with that, I'll turn it over.